Hi guys, Anthony with Austin Historical Weapons Guild. Today we're talking about Fabris's Plate 22. So in Plate 22, Fabris talks about or describes a wound of a third against a third, and again gives us two different ways where this could be set up. The first option is that I'm going to feint and draw him offline to parry, and the other guy does something that seems very nonsensical counterintuitive, where he kind of drops his blade, parrying from there. And I believe that if Fabris is demonstrating your opponent doing this, it's something that's not a terrible reaction, unlikely option to do. So let's kind of look at why that is before we go through the rest of the technique. If I'm in third and I'm feigning, lunging, whatever, and he's going to parry, by dropping, he helps get his strong on and gets himself close to his leverage. The other benefit is if I've taken this wound and driven out to second, that high angle of the blade helps deflect a wider angle of attack. So if I come into third and just thrust through, you can probably deflect without too much angle of motion, right? I can come here, you can push this aside, and we're kind of neutral. If I go out to second as I make this thrust, right, that straight line he had before is not enough to keep that tip offline. So by dropping his handle and raising his blade up, he's able to easily deflect this much more convincingly. So that's kind of the why of this motion. It's not inherently bad. It's not a great example in this situation. Fabris is always explicitly saying to make sure we're always attacking when we make our parries. However, we always know that's not always an option. So this kind of starts to happen. So not a great response, but not the terrible one that is kind of lined out to be here. So as I make this feint, as I see him commit, I convazione, and if he's nice enough to give me this big angle here, that's what my thrust is coming through. So again, we're both to the inside. I feint a motion, inviting a parry, and I can drive through off of this. The other option Fabris sets this up as is a reaction to me finding the blade and him cavazione changing out and trying to change the angles. So I come up, I'm going to find his sword. As he cavaziones through, he gives me a tempo which I can just make my attack, right? The mistake here, and Fabris is very careful to point this out, is that it's not that cavaziones are bad, but if you're just doing cavazione and changing line, you're not removing yourself as a target. And that's what this kind of highlights. So once I have found his sword, I'm online. He may or may not be, but I have a much easier time parrying because my strong close to his weak. If he cavaziones in this instance, I just need to finish my attack. Right? He's getting closer to me, which is to my benefit, because he's closing that distance for me as I move in, and I can just very easily finish that attack that I've lined up by finding his blade as he gets closer to it. So again, I find his sword, he cavaziones, I just charge through.